The auction of chains. The market was loud. Voices shouted. Chains clinked. Creatures of all shapes and sizes walked between metal cages. Some sold weapons. Some sold animals. But today, the biggest crowd stood near a stage. There, chained and bruised, stood warriors, female warriors, captured, beaten, silenced. At the end of the line stood her. She was tall, almost 7 feet. Her dark skin shone under the twin suns. Her eyes burned like fire. Even with blood on her face and iron on her arms, she looked powerful. Like a queen of battle. She was a Zarvian Amazon, a race known for war and strength, trained from childhood to fight, never cry, and never kneel. But today, she was for sale. A greedy alien merchant stood beside her. He raised her arm and shouted, "Zarvian elite, strong as a beast, fast as lightning, 100 credits, who bids?" The crowd stayed silent. Everyone knew about Zarvian Amazons. Even in chains, they were dangerous. One mistake, one loose shackle, and they could kill 10 men in seconds. The merchant looked nervous. He lowered the price. 80, 60, she's healthy, she can work, or fight, or entertain. Still no one spoke. She stared at the crowd with cold hate. Her fists were clenched. Her mouth had not spoken a single word all day. Finally, someone laughed. A tall alien with sharp teeth said, "Too risky. She'll kill her master in his sleep." Another added, "Zarvian females are cursed. Better to leave her here." The merchant grew angry. "Fine, 40 credits. Just take her." And then a voice came from the back, "I'll take her." Everyone turned. It was a human, a simple man, tall, but not strong. His face was calm, his clothes plain. He walked alone, no guards, no weapons, just a small pouch in his hand. The merchant blinked. "You? A human? You want her?" The man nodded. "Yes, 40 credits," the crowd whispered. Some laughed. Others looked confused. The merchant quickly took the money. "She's yours, but don't blame me when she breaks your bones." The human walked up to the Amazon. Her eyes narrowed. She expected him to strike her or drag her by the chain. But he didn't. He gently held her chains and said, "Come with me." She didn't move. "Do you plan to beat me?" she asked, her voice low. "No." "Use me?" "No." "Break me?" He looked into her eyes. "You've already been broken. Too many times." That surprised her. Without another word, she followed him. The crowd stared in shock as the Earthling led the warrior away. They walked through the dusty market. The Amazon kept her eyes sharp. She expected him to lock her in a cage, or take her to a dark room. That's what others had done in the past. But they just kept walking. After some time, they reached a small ship. Rusty, old, but working. He opened the door for her. She stepped inside. It smelled like oil, metal, and safety. He sat in the pilot seat. "I'll take you to my home. It's quiet. You can rest there." She didn't answer. He looked at her again. "You don't have to trust me. Just eat. Heal. No one will hurt you under my roof." She stared at him. "Why?" "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." She didn't speak for the rest of the flight. But her eyes watched him closely. Not with hate anymore, but with confusion. That night, she sat on a soft bed. Her chains were gone, her wounds cleaned. A plate of warm food sat in front of her. The human said nothing. He just left her alone in the room. She stared at the food, then at the door, then at her hands. No chains, no cage, no orders, just freedom. She didn't eat. Not yet. But for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a weapon. She felt like a person, and she didn't know what to do with that feeling. She sat still. The warrior Amazon had not touched the food. It smelled good, Soft meat, hot soup, strange bread, but she didn't eat. She didn't trust it. Poison? A test? A trap? She had seen too much to believe in kindness. Her eyes stared at the wall. Her back stayed straight like a soldier. Even without chains, she felt the weight of them. The door creaked. The human entered quietly, holding a blanket. He didn't come close. He placed it near the bed and stepped back. "You'll be cold tonight," he said softly. She didn't answer. He didn't force her to speak. He simply nodded and left the room again. Strange. No commands, no shouting, no whip, no hand on her shoulder, no threats, just space. Morning came. She hadn't slept, not fully. Her eyes had stayed half open all night, trained like a warrior, watching for danger. She heard movement outside, the sound of tools, maybe machines. The smell of metal and smoke came through the walls. She finally stepped out of the room. The house was small, old, full of scrap and machines. Clean, but simple. Outside, she saw him working on a broken farming drone. He wiped sweat from his face and smiled when he saw her. "Good morning?" She didn't respond. He stood up, brushed his hands, and pointed to a chair. "You can sit. Or not. I'm fixing this. It helps water the crops." She watched silently. He didn't ask her to help. Didn't treat her like a slave, didn't act like a master. She sat not because he told her to, but because she wanted to understand this strange man. Days passed. She still didn't speak much, but she started eating. First small bites, then full meals. Then she helped clean the kitchen, just to keep her hands busy. At night, she still slept, lightly, but the nightmares were fewer. One day she walked into the workshop and said, "Why did you buy me?" The human looked up from the tools. "To free you." She narrowed her eyes. "You spent your credits. Just to let me go?" "Yes." "No man does that." "I'm not like most men." She didn't reply, but her heart felt something strange. It wasn't fear. Another day she found him fixing a small robot pet with a damaged leg. The robot whirred and blinked as he repaired its wiring. "You fix broken things," she said. He nodded. "I try." She sat beside him. "What if something is broken? Inside?" He didn't answer right away. He looked at her. Really looked. "Then we start small, one piece at a time." The silence between them was warm. She felt it again. Not fear, something else. One night, a storm hit the valley. Lightning flashed, wind screamed, a tree crashed near the house. The Amazon warrior leapt out of bed, blade in hand, her heart racing. The human stood calmly at the window, watching the rain. "It's just a storm," he said. She looked around. No fire, no enemies, no battle. Her breath slowed. Her hand lowered. She stepped beside him and whispered, "You don't treat me like a weapon." He turned to her. "Because you're not." She had no words, only silence, and eyes filled with something soft. In the weeks that followed, she started laughing just a little. She helped build fences. She asked about Earth. She told stories of her battles. He listened without judgment. One evening, she brought him tea, her idea. "You are not what I expected, human," she said, "and you're not what I feared," he replied. She gave him a small smile. That night, she stood under the stars thinking about her past. She had been called killer, slave, beast. But now, she didn't feel like any of those things. She felt like herself, and for the first time in her life, she didn't want to leave. The mornings were quiet now. Birds chirped near the window. The wind moved gently through the trees. The smell of fresh bread filled the house. The Amazon warrior sat at the table sipping warm tea. No chains, no armor, just a simple robe and calm silence. She had never known peace like this. But peace was confusing. She was trained for war, built for it. Her hands knew the shape of swords better than spoons. Her muscles remembered battle cries better than lullabies. And yet, here she was, waking without fear, eating without rush, living without orders. Was this weakness or was this healing? Outside, the human worked again. His hands were always busy, fixing, building, helping. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his voice was calm. Honest. She watched him from the window. One moment, he helped a broken drone fly again. Another moment, he fed a wounded bird with soft hands. "Why do you care for broken things?" she asked him later. He looked at her with a small smile. "Because I've been broken too." She paused. "And who fixed you?" He shrugged. "Time, and a bit of kindness." She said nothing, but her heart stirred. Not fear, not anger, just warmth. Later that day, she found her old armor in a box, scratched, rusted, heavy with old blood. She touched it slowly. The armor had saved her life many times. It had also kept her heart locked away. She stared at it for a long time, then closed the box. She didn't need it now. The human saw her watching the stars that night. "You missed the battlefield?" he asked. "No," she said quickly, but then she paused. "I miss having purpose." He nodded. "So find a new one." She frowned. What purpose can a blade have in a house of peace? He stood beside her. Maybe it protects, not destroys. Maybe it stands, not attacks. She turned to him. "And what do you fight for?" He looked into her eyes. "For people who forgot how to fight for themselves." Her chest tightened. She had fought for kings, for warlords, for fear, but no one had ever fought for her. Days passed. She helped more now, planting seeds, repairing tools, washing solar panels. The human never asked her to do anything, but she wanted to. She felt useful again, not as a soldier, as a person. One afternoon she heard a noise near the barn. A wild beast, large, four-legged, with sharp claws, had wandered close. The human didn't see it coming, but she did. Without thinking, she rushed forward, jumped between the beast and the human, and stood tall. "Stay behind me," she shouted. The beast charged. She grabbed a broken metal rod. No sword, but enough. With one strike, she knocked the creature aside. It limped away into the forest. The human looked up, stunned. "You saved me," he said. She gave a small smile. "You saved me first." That night, as they sat near the fire, she looked at her hands. Strong hands, scarred hands. Hands that had killed, hands that had now saved. She whispered, "I don't know who I am anymore." He gently replied, "That means you're becoming someone new." She looked at him, and for once, she didn't feel lost. She felt found. She didn't need a sword anymore, but if she ever picked one up again, it would be for him. Not for war, not for pride, not for blood, but for love. The sun rose slowly, lighting up the small house with a golden glow. The Amazon warrior stood in the doorway, watching the field sway with wind. Her strong arms crossed over her chest, her sharp eyes soft for the first time. She had stopped counting the days. Life here was not about survival anymore. It was about living. Inside, the human was in the kitchen, humming a tune. He wore a stained apron and stirred something in a pot. The smell was sweet, something baked, something kind. She walked in silently. He turned and smiled. "Hungry?" She raised an eyebrow. "What is that smell?" "Earth-style breakfast. Simple but good. Sit, I'll serve." She sat slowly, unsure. He placed a plate in front of her. Warm, soft bread with a sweet glaze and a bowl of golden soup. She picked up the spoon carefully. The first bite made her pause. It wasn't just food. It was comfort. She kept eating, faster now. He watched her with a calm expression. "Glad you like it." She looked up, lips slightly parted. Then it happened. She smiled, just a small one, but it lit up her face. A smile that hadn't existed in years. Not since she was a child, not since the war. The human noticed, but didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Later that day, they worked. In silence outside, she repaired a broken gate. He fixed a damaged light panel. The wind blew gently through the trees. A sound came from behind the house. She went to check. There, curled in the grass, was a wounded baby animal, small, shaking, afraid. She knelt beside it. Her large hands gently lifted its tiny body. The creature didn't resist. It looked into her eyes and trusted her. She brought it to the human. He blinked. "You saved it?" She nodded. "Its leg is broken." He smiled. "Then we fix it." Side by side, they bandaged the little one. She held the creature close, pressing it to her chest. "It's strange," she said. "What is?" "This thing is scared, weak, but it didn't fear me." He looked at her, serious now. "Because you're not what the world tried to make you." She was quiet for a long time, then whispered, "What am I?" He answered gently, "Someone becoming something better." That evening, they sat under the stars again. The baby animal slept in a basket beside them. She stared at the sky. "In my world," she said, "we are taught that softness is weakness, that smiling is a crack in armor." "And what do you believe now?" he asked. She thought for a long moment. "I think softness takes strength, real strength." He nodded. She looked at him. "You changed me," she said softly. He smiled. "I didn't change you. I just gave you space to be real." She turned her face away, but the corner of her lips curled again. Another smile, a real one. And this time, she didn't hide it. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a soldier. She felt like a woman. She felt seen. And somehow, without knowing when it began, she felt something even stronger than loyalty. She felt safe. The stars blinked above, but something dark moved behind them. A shadow. A ship. It did not bring peace. It brought the past. The Amazon warrior woke with a chill. She stepped outside, scanning the sky. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. Old instincts, long buried under soft moments and kind meals, returned like a whisper in her blood. Danger. She turned quickly. The human stood near the crops holding a small tool. She walked to him. "We need to talk." Inside the house, she opened a hidden panel in the wall. From the dark space, she pulled out a small metal chip, silent, blinking. "A tracker," she said, her voice cold. "They must have hidden it under my skin before selling me." He stared at it. "Who's coming?" "The Zarvian Empire." His eyes narrowed. "To take you back?" She nodded. "Or kill me. I am a runaway, a failed weapon. They don't allow such things to live." He crossed his arms. "Then we run." She shook her head. "No, I'm done running." That night, the wind changed. She sharpened a blade. Her hands were steady, eyes focused. She hadn't touched a weapon since the day she arrived, but now she needed one. Not for revenge, for protection, for him. The human prepared too. He reinforced the doors, charged the old defense system, hid emergency supplies underground. When she saw what he was doing, she paused. "You could leave. They won't follow you if I'm gone." He looked up. "And let them take you?" She blinked. "You'd fight for me?" she asked. "I'd die for you," he answered. That silence between them was heavier than war. The next day, a black ship landed on the edge of the forest. It was big, loud, unmarked, deadly. 5 armored warriors stepped out, Zarvian enforcers, her old kind. Their leader carried a long spear and a voice of thunder. "Return the escaped weapon, human, or be destroyed with it." The human stood at the door, his hands up, but firm. She's not a weapon. She's free. The warriors laughed. She belongs to the Empire. And then she stepped forward, strong, tall, silent. No, she said. I belong to no one. The fight was fast, flashes of metal, grunts of pain. Sparks flew in the air. She moved like fire, every strike perfect, every step like a dance of death. But this time, she didn't fight for orders. She didn't fight for glory. She fought for him. He stood behind her, defending the house, holding off one attacker with a broken pipe. Together they were not prey. They were warriors. Blood spilled on the grass. The last enforcer fell. The leader crawled back to his ship, defeated. She stood over him. You trained me to kill, she said, but love made me stronger. Then she let him crawl away, because she wasn't a killer anymore. That night, the fire crackled as they sat side by side. He was bruised. She had a cut above her eye. But both were alive. He looked at her. You saved my life. She turned to him. You gave me a life worth saving. Somewhere in the forest, the Empire's ship disappeared into the stars. But she didn't care, because for the first time, she had won a battle without losing herself. Smoke still hung in the air. The ground was marked with deep burns. Blood stained the grass. Broken armor lay scattered around the quiet house. But inside, there was only silence and pain. The Amazon warrior sat at the edge of the bed. Her body was bruised, her lip bleeding, but she didn't care. Her eyes were locked on the man lying in front of her. The human. Still. Pale. Breathing. But barely. The fight was over. They had won. But during the final strike, the last enemy had lunged at her with a hidden blade. She hadn't seen it coming, but he had. He had jumped between them, unarmed. The blade had gone deep into his side. He had fallen without a word. Now, she sat beside him, blood on her hands. His blood, not hers. Her body had always been a shield for herself. But today, he became her shield. She whispered to him, "Why would you do this?" He didn't answer. Eyes closed, breathing shallow. She held his hand, gently as if he might shatter. "You fool," she whispered, voice cracking. "You stupid, brave fool." Tears gathered in her eyes. Real tears. She had never cried on the battlefield, but this was not war. This was loss. She got up quickly. She wasn't a healer, but she would learn. She wasn't soft, but she would be. She wasn't ready to love, but now, she couldn't imagine life without him. She wrapped his wound, boiled clean water, gave him medicine from old supplies. Hour after hour she sat beside him, changing his cloth, talking to him, begging. "Wake up," she whispered. "You can't leave me, not after saving me." Still no answer. Night fell. Stars filled the sky. She leaned close to him, her forehead touching his. "I was trained to be a weapon," she whispered. "But you made me feel like a woman." Her voice broke. "You showed me how to live. Don't die now." She placed his hand over her heart. "You're part of me now." A weak breath escaped his lips. She looked up, eyes wide. His fingers moved. "You talk too much," he whispered with a weak smile. Her breath caught, and then she laughed. A full, broken, beautiful laugh, through tears. "You idiot," she whispered. He blinked slowly. "Did we win?" She nodded. "Yes, but you nearly died like a hero." "Worth it," he mumbled. "For you." She held his hand tightly. "Never do that again." He smiled. No promises. The next day, he was still weak but awake. She fed him soup. He tried to joke, but she shushed him. "Just rest. For once, let me be the strong one." He chuckled softly. "You always were." Outside, the battlefield would fade. The blood would wash away. The enemies had left. But a new war had begun inside her. Not a war of blades, a war of feelings, a war of loyalty and love. She looked at him one last time that evening. "I won't lose you," she said. "Not now. Not ever." And in that moment, she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't a weapon. She was his shield, and he was her reason. The days passed slowly. The wounds began to heal. The bruises faded. The cuts closed. But something else was happening too. Something deeper than scars. Inside the Amazon warrior, the old walls were crumbling. She no longer woke with her fists clenched. She no longer looked at the door like it was a trap. She no longer counted her steps like a prisoner because now she belonged to no one, but she chose to stay. The human's strength returned with each sunrise. She helped him walk. He taught her how to laugh. She showed him how to sharpen a blade. He showed her how to plant flowers. They were so different. Yet, somehow they fit, like pieces that had been lost, until they found each other. One evening he sat outside on the porch, looking at the stars. She joined him, silent as always, and sat beside him. He turned to her with a quiet smile. "You've changed," she nodded. "You made me see who I could be." He tilted his head. "And who is that?" She thought for a long time, then stood up, walked to the small fire pit, and threw her old war tag into the flames. It burned instantly. Her name, her number, her rank, gone. She looked back at him. "I don't want to be called what they named me." "Then what do you want to be called?" She paused, then said softly, "I want you to name me." His eyes widened. "Me? Yes," she said. "You saw the real me first, so let your words shape who I become." He stood slowly, eyes never leaving hers. After a moment he whispered, "Hope." She blinked. "Hope?" she repeated. He smiled. "Because that's what you gave me. That's what you carry now." She looked away, tears threatening, but this time she let them fall. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. That night, under the stars, she whispered her new name aloud, "I am Hope," and she smiled. A full, proud, true smile. Seasons passed. The old battlefield grew green again. The broken machines were fixed. The small house became a home. Together, they repaired what the world had broken, in metal, in spirit, in heart. Hope planted her first garden. He carved a symbol into the doorway, two hands holding each other. And though no grand army saw it, though no crowd clapped, it was the greatest victory either of them had ever known. In a faraway system, the Empire marked her as lost property. They would never find her again. Because Hope wasn't hiding, she was living. One morning he asked her gently, "Do you regret any of it?" She looked at the sun rising over the quiet field, then at him, and whispered, "No, because the day you bought me was the day I was set free."